Hey, Earthlings, how are you doing? Now, as you know, or as you may know, I'm a rights-based animal rights advocate, and so I want animal rights to be taken seriously as a philosophical idea. And the main guy I always point to, of course, is Tom Regan, who literally wrote the book on animal rights theory. This is the Case for Animal Rights from 1983. Now, it's not a particularly easy read. There are some aspects of the case in this book, which is the animal rights debate, and that's between Reagan and a philosopher called Carl Cohen. So there are aspects of the case. It's kind of easier to read because it's in a kind of debate form with that. This one's pretty easy as well. This is Animal Rights, Human Wrongs, and it's kind of like an introduction. And so obviously some of the themes from the case are used in this. So that's kind of pretty good. I always recommend this, as people will probably know, which is Defending Animal Rights from 2001. And this is just a set of kind of chapters. And so this is pretty good. And it's an easier read in the sense that all the chapters are kind of self-contained. And so that means they've got a kind of beginning, middle, and end. And it's quite easy to understand what we're saying. So as a rights-based person, I want the ideas of animal rights to be assessed and judged by the public. And it's kind of never happened. Animal rights gets kind of short shrift within the animal rights movement, which is a strange thing to say, but is also true. And one of the reasons is this. I was innocently listening to this today. And so this is Our Hen House, and this is the podcast episode number 595, which is pretty impressive. And it's with Tyson-Lord Gray, who, amongst other things, works for Mercy for Animals, which is a bit of an alarm bell for me in the first place. And so, okay, I was listening along, and then this happened. Let me see if I can find the part and play it for you. And so this question occurred, and listen to the answer.
For those who say, all right, we're never going to make progress unless we get rid of capitalism. It's just a defective system, and it'll just be greenwashing or humane washing, as you were mentioning before.
Right.
And then there are those who believe we can make enormous changes within the system that we've got. I'm guessing you are the second, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay, tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay, so yes, I'm a bit of a pragmatist, so I'm a little bit of both and you probably know that even within animal rights, there's the two different camps, right? There's the animal rights that wants to argue for better treatment of animals in CAFOs and factory farms, and then there's animal liberation, which is the complete liberation of all animals from any type of harm at all.
Okay. Now, that is wrong. And this guy is a professor, adjunct professor. He's probably never read a page of Tom Regan. To say that animal rights is about achieving the better treatment of other animals is just totally ridiculous and really, really badly ignorant. And basically what it means, because, again, this guy is working with a big group that calls itself animal rights. He clearly doesn't know what animal rights means. It means that animal rights just doesn't get out there, and the public can't decide whether it's a good idea or not. What we get is garbage like this. Animal rights is about the better treatment of it. No, it's an abolitionist idea. Tom Regan was the originator of abolitionist animal rights. It's about empty cages, not bigger cages, as he said. To get that wrong is just appalling and so kind of upsetting. It can be really upsetting being in a social movement sometimes, because you've got to negotiate this kind of shite. And the real problem is that some groups and people have got big voices and big platforms and they can really mislead their people. And that is just a total, blatant, ignorant misrepresentation of animal rights. Animal rights is an abolitionist idea. Go to Tom Reagan Legendary on Facebook and just see Tom Reagan's work. Look up Tom Reagan on YouTube. Look at the Culture and Animals Foundation and look up the tag on Tom Reagan. Just Google Tom Reagan. Just look at the case for animal rights from 1985. Now, I'll be careful there. That's the chapter which was in a Peter Singer book called In Defense of Animals. Okay, but he had a chapter called The Case for Animal Rights. The book is 1983, but there's The Case for Animal Rights 1985 on Google. And you can find that and you can read it. And he talks about the total dissolution and the total abolition of animal use. He's not talking about treatment. He railed against that idea. That's animal welfare. You know, there's so much confusion still between the ideas of animal rights and the ideas of animal welfare. In some sense, it's really weird because when Gary Francione was kind of part of the movement, rather than being outside of it, just screaming abuse, as it were, then the debate about animal rights and animal welfare came to the fore, and there was, you know, quite a good debate, and people were starting to get, you know, the meaning of the difference between the two things. You know, the crude difference is that animal welfare is about improving the treatment while other animals are being used. Animal rights is about ending their use. It's abolitionist. Totally the opposite of what this guy has just said. It's really weird. This modern day movement is getting worse in terms of understanding what animal rights is. The animal rights movement, by and large, doesn't understand what animal rights is. How weird is that? I mean, we already know that there's large elements of the modern day vegan movement who don't understand veganism, at least not in terms of how it was originally formulated. The original ideals, the vision of veganism has been kind of lost to a new generation. Don't really know what it means. The same goes for animal rights. It's like a tragedy. It's really weird that you've got this situation where there ain't much rights in animal rights. It is such a bizarre position to be in, to have a movement called the animal rights movement, where most people haven't got the foggiest of what animal rights means. It's really disappointing. Well, on that optimistic note, Earthlings, I'll leave you. It's quite late here in Dublin, and I had that on in the background, and that came up, and I thought, oh, you can't be serious. You really can't be serious. Animal rights is about the better treatment of their own. Okay, Earthlings, I'll see you again. Bye for now.